Hi, it's Gwyneth here, and in this video I would like to share with you the pros and cons between the STAR and the CAR models when it comes to structuring your interview answers. Now, at the outset, I should say I am not a fan of either of these approaches, either of these techniques, for the simple reason that if you structure all your answers in the same way, because of the way that human beings respond to conversations, if you are repeating a pattern, what happens is the people listening, when they've heard several of your answers, they actually stop listening to content. Their brains start looking for the S, the T, the A and the R, or the C, the A and the R. And if you miss something out, they won't necessarily have realized that you've missed out content. They will just realize that you've missed out one of the steps. In my opinion, not particularly useful when you are trying to persuade somebody that you're the best candidate for the job. Having said that, I can think of several organizations I have worked with who insist on using the STAR method. Like I said, I'm not quite sure why. As a hiring manager, I think eventually it would bore me to tears if I had 5 people coming into interview all giving me the same structured type of answers. And before I go on, I must give a shout out to Roy, because this was his question. I had the privilege of working with him several weeks ago doing a mock interview. This was his question: how should I best structure my answers at interview? So let's start with STAR. STAR is situation, task, action, and results. So situation, talking about the context, the task, what it is you had to do, the action that you took, and the result that came out. Now, in principle, for preparation purposes, it can be quite useful for you to use STAR, because it allows you to ensure that you've got all the relevant information when you actually give your answer. The problem with STAR is that it does not work for those questions that, why are you the best candidate for the job, or why do you want this position? It does not work for questions, negative questions. Tell us about a time you made a mistake, or tell us about a time you had to resolve conflict. Those kind of negative questions, they always require learning at the end, and STAR doesn't allow you to do that. And the other thing is that the situation, task, action, result, the situation, if you go too deep into the situation, you can end up just giving a load of blah, because you want to set the scene properly, and you start talking about other people involved in a project or the team or whatever, and you really do, your attention goes away from yourself. And if your attention goes away from yourself, then the people on the hiring panel also will be, you're indirectly bringing other people into the conversation, and you don't want that to happen at interview. You want the focus to be fully on you. So STAR, yes, great to kind of help you put that structure together, but it doesn't work for all types of answers. And people do get into trouble when they then find STAR and it's, oh, fantastic, I can do all my answers according to STAR. It doesn't work. Okay, the second one, CAR. Now, there are a couple of different things. I wasn't sure myself, actually, because I know the challenge, action, result. But when I did a little bit of research, there are some sites that say it's context, action, result. But I'm going to talk about challenge because that's what one of the larger sites talks about. Now, again, from a preparation perspective, yes, you can think about the challenges of the problem that you had to solve, or the situation, or the task that it was you had to do. What were the steps that you took, and what were the results? But again, you cannot use CAR for those openers, for those tell us about yourself, for those, why should we hire you? Why do you consider yourself to be the best candidate? And you also cannot apply CAR to those negative answers, either questions and answers, because again, there's no space for the learning aspect. And you would be amazed at how many people forget about the learning. Learning for a negative answer is so important, because it demonstrates that if you've learned something, you are not going to make the same mistake again. Anyway, coming back to CAR. So if you look at this from a challenge perspective, when people hear the word challenge, again, there's a negative intonation. There's a kind of a bit of a subconscious, there was a problem that I had to solve. Now, clearly, you're going to be talking to the hiring panel about how fabulous you are and all the problems that you solved. But if you start every single answer talking about the challenges, you are bringing the energy down, down, down. There was this problem and this is what I did and this was the result. And then there was this problem and this is what I did and then there was the result. And then there was this problem, this challenge, and this is what I did and this was the result. If you start every answer with the challenge, with the problems that you encountered, then my question is going to be, first of all, oh my goodness gracious me, where has this person been working? But secondly, if you faced all these challenges, what were you actually doing? How come there were so many problems in your previous places of work? Why weren't you actually doing something before they became problems? So again, in my opinion, with the car approach, whilst it is useful with regards to preparation, when it actually comes to giving your answers at interview, for me, it's a very negative energy downer, energy vampire. And at your interview, you want to be positive and you want the hiring panel to listen to you, be hanging on every single word of every single answer that you give them. So what should you do? Well, there are a couple of things. As I've mentioned already, star versus car. If you are bent on having some structure in place to help you prepare, then that's absolutely fantastic. But remember that those openers, why you want the job, that's all about your motivation. Why should we hire you? That's all about what you are going to bring to the position. That's not just about giving a list of the skills. That's telling them how you're going to make them feel fabulous about the team every single day. And neither of those things work, as I also mentioned, if you're trying to answer any negative questions, resolving conflict, making a mistake, because they don't include the learning, and the learning is so important. So whilst you can use both those without wanting to sound like a broken record for your preparation, and unless you are applying to one of those organisations that loves the STAR method, I don't know, maybe it makes it easier for them to assess all the candidates if they've got all the candidates saying the same thing. Could argue it also makes the candidates very difficult to stand out, though, if everybody's repeating the same structure. But anyway, look at the vacancy announcement. Read it through 50 times. Ask yourself, for every single action, for every single sentence in the context, every single sentence in your tasks and responsibilities, every single sentence in the competencies, what are the challenges of this position? Okay, and write it all down. Use a pen, use a paper. You are an analog, fabulous human being, not a digital computer thing. Write it all down so that you're absolutely clear in your mind where the challenges are, so that you can begin to piece your answers together. And the second thing is, go through the vacancy announcement again and look at all the processes. And when you've identified the processes, for example, evaluating a project or putting together a budget or performance appraisals for your team, when you've looked at all the tasks that are in there, write down every single step for every single process. Now, this might sound like a lot of work, but I promise you, when you have a deep understanding, first of all, of the vacancy announcement, and second of all, a deep understanding of how you approach your work, you're going to be in a much better position to get all the relevant information into your answers. And you'll see in the in this playlist that I have got many other interviews, many other videos, excuse me, about how to prepare for specific answers, so that you really do come across. Because remember, you've got to stand out. It's not about, for me, an interview is not about performing to a specific process. It's about demonstrating to the hiring panel how fabulous you are, what it is you bring, and why they should hire you, because you are different and not because you are following a 4-step process to answer your questions. Okay, last caveat, last disclaimer, if you're unsure, just check with the human resources people that you're applying to if they are looking for a specific structure to your answers. Okay, so I think I've covered all the bases there. Look forward to speaking to you again soon. If you'd like to get in touch, you can always book a 20-minute call with me. There's a link below. In between times, stay safe, stay healthy, stay fabulous. I wish you all my love, and bye for now.